Good morning, Mr. Rifkin. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to ask you some questions on your work.
My pleasure.
You speak eloquently and write eloquently on the third industrial revolution, a post-carbon economy. It obviously implies there's been a first and a second revolution. Are the systems and models that are coming out of these previous revolutions in terms of how we do production and how we organize work, are these systems at the end of their legacies?
Well, they're definitely at the end of their legacies. They're sunsetting. Let me explain that the great economic revolutions in history occur when new energy regimes emerge. New energy regimes make possible more complex societies. They then require new communication revolutions that are agile enough to manage the new energies. So all through history, when communication and energy revolutions converge and merge, they change the economic paradigm. In the 19th century, we went from manual print presses to steam power printing, so we could produce lots of material cheaply. We introduced public schools and created a literate workforce with the communication skills to manage a very complex coal and rail-driven industrial revolution. In the 20th century, centralized electrification, the telephone, then later radio and television, became the communication media to manage a more dispersed auto, oil, and suburban society and a mass consumer culture. The second industrial revolution is clearly on life support. Fossil fuel energies are getting more and more expensive and volatile in price on world markets. The technologies based on those energies, like the internal combustion engine, centralized electrification, have very little productivity left in them. So what we're seeing is the sunsetting of a great industrial revolution. And the question then is, what do we do?
Exactly. So the carbon economy is organized and managed through a centralized capital system. How would you describe the characteristics and signs for this third industrial revolution?
The third industrial revolution is organized quite differently. We're seeing the coming together of a new communication revolution, the internet, with a new energy regime, distributed renewable energies. What's interesting about the internet is the way it's organized. I grew up on centralized communication, top-down, one-to-many, television, radio, magazines, and newspapers. The internet's organized completely different. It's not centralized. It's distributed communication. It's organized collaboratively, and it doesn't scale vertically. It's peer-to-peer lateral power. But that's only half this revolution. The third industrial revolution, we're seeing this distributed, collaborative, laterally scaled communication revolution converge now with a new energy revolution, distributed energies, which have to be organized collaboratively and scale peer-to-peer laterally. Distributed energies are energies that are found everywhere: the sun, the wind, the geothermal heat under the ground, agricultural and forestry waste, ocean tides and waves. All of these energies are found in some proportion everywhere on the planet. So the third industrial revolution, we see a five-pillar infrastructure that's going to create a completely new business model.
So what are those five-pillar fundamentals that will allow and enable this third industrial revolution to really take place and to accelerate in the future?
Well, let me say, first of all, this five-pillar third industrial revolution is the formal plan of the EU. It was endorsed by the European Parliament in 2007. It's working its way through the European Commission and the member states. I was privileged to develop the plan with the EU. I should say some countries are further ahead than other countries. Germany and Denmark, they're way ahead on the five pillars. Pillar one, the EU has made a formal commitment to 20% renewable energy in every region of Europe by 2020. A third of the electricity has to be green. That's not a suggestion, that's a mandate. Pillar two, how do we collect distributed renewable energies? We're going to collect them with our buildings. The goal is to convert all 191 million buildings in the EU to your own personal green micro power plant. So you can get solar electricity off the roof, wind off the side of the buildings, geothermal heat as power from underneath the buildings, convert your garbage to energy in the buildings. Pillar three is storage. We have to store these energies. You know, the sun isn't always shining. Sometimes the wind's blowing at night, you need the electricity during the day. They're intermittent energies, so we like all storage. Batteries, flywheels, capacitors, water pumping, air compression. Pillar four, this is where the communication and energy converge. We're taking off-the-shelf internet technology, and we're transforming the transmission electricity grid of Europe to an energy internet, a distributed smart grid. So when millions of buildings are producing just a tiny bit of their own green electricity, storing it in hydrogen like we store media in digital, then if you don't need some of that green electricity in your building at any given moment, your home, office, or factory, you can program your software to direct you to sell that electricity across an energy internet from the Irish Sea all the way to the edges of Eastern Europe. Just like we create information, store it in digital, share it online. That's pillar 4. The last pillar, pillar 5, is logistics, transport. Electric vehicles are here. Fuel cell vehicles, hydrogen-run cars, trucks, and buses will be in mass production by the big companies, auto companies, in 2016. You'll be able to plug in your vehicles anywhere where there are buildings, get green electricity, and wherever you park, there'll be a plug. Plug back in, get green electricity, or you could sell your own electricity back to the grid if the price is right. These 5 pillars alone are meaningless. They're components. When you phase them in together, you create a technology platform for a completely new economic era that's going to dramatically increase productivity, reduce energy costs, get us off carbon-based fuels so we can address climate change.
You mentioned earlier a distributed capital system, sort of power to the people. How will this change really impact the way we do production today and in the future?
Fundamentally, the music companies did not understand file sharing of music. When millions of kids began to create software to file share music, the music companies thought it was a joke and they went out of business. The newspapers, of course, did not understand the blogosphere. Now, when millions of people start sharing news, information, entertainment, we see that the newspapers and the publishing industry are either rethinking or moving to some form of blogs. As powerful as the democratization of information is, when we use the internet to democratize energy, and billions of people within 20 years from now are producing their own green electricity, just like billions of people are now producing their own information, that changes the economic footprint.
Is this industrial revolution looming around the corner, staring us in the face, or are we actually in the midst of it as we speak?
Well, we're there already. Germany and Denmark, for example, in Europe are in all 5 pillars, and they're heading very, very quickly to a transition into renewable energies. Let's take Germany. Germany's already 22% green electricity. They're heading to 35% green electricity by 2020. Pillar 2, Germany has already converted 1 million buildings, are now producing some of their own green micropower. Pillar 3, in Germany, E.ON, the utility company, is working with hydrogenics, and they're testing hydrogen to store the electricity across the transmission grid. Pillar 4, Deutsche Telekom is testing the distributed energy internet across 6 regions of Germany right now. And Pillar 5, Daimler is introducing their fuel cell vehicles in 2016, and they've set up an arrangement with Vettel and Linde AG to set up power fuel stations all across Germany. So Germany, Denmark, other countries are really moving quickly.
So seemingly, business will need to get the support from other stakeholders in order to get an engaged stakeholder approach, and the role of governments play an important role. You've talked about Germany and Denmark. Have you been able to build a relationship with Belgian authorities or Belgian government on this particular matter?
Belgium is ideal for it. You have a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises, and there's a lot of small companies and medium-sized companies moving into these 5 pillars. Absolutely, across Belgium. You have renewable energy companies, we have construction companies, IT, transport, logistics, all doing this. What they need now is the regions to make a commitment. So we're hoping that we can develop 3rd industrial revolution master plans for the 3 major regions of Belgium, like we're doing in France and other countries. Once the region, as a governing unit, sets up the idea of a plan, then the business community and the civil society can come together and we can map out a 5, 10, 15, 20-year transition.
There is an enormous necessity today for us humans, for us professionals, to contribute to a new economy, to serve life, to serve humanity, and to work on sustainability. How do you see the role of Schneider Electric specifically on this journey?
Companies like Schneider are going to play a fundamental role because Schneider is in all 5 pillars of this 3rd industrial revolution, and Schneider is developing applications that are going to allow us in our buildings to monitor our energy, create more energy efficiency, reduce our use of fossil fuels, and help us bring in the new energies so that we can turn each building into a power plant that creates clean, green, sustainable, renewable energy. So it's companies like Schneider that will help us hopefully in this transition. We have a 30-year race against the clock. We have to be off carbon in 30 years. So Schneider's role will be a legacy role. The bottom line will be advanced, there's no doubt, because these applications have to happen. But when the history of this period is made, it'll be companies like Schneider that'll play a pivotal role in transitioning us from a 2nd to a 3rd industrial revolution, getting us off carbon-based fuels, and moving us into a sustainable future so we can replenish this biosphere and live as good partners on this planet. It is a big mission.
Mr. Rifkin, thank you so much for your thoughts, your wisdom, and your inspiration, and we look forward to another opportunity to speak with you in the future.
Thank you.